So the children have finished, they're able to reason as to how they found the solution. Problem-solving task sequences, how can we take them forward? What does task development look like? And this has given me some fantastic teaching moments. So a classic structure, I'd referred to this in a previous video, was children finding an answer, different answers, able to say, I found all the answers. In this case, being able to describe why one of the questions has got more answers than the other one. I always remember this one, a child saying, well, question B has fewer answers than question A because there's not as many numbers you can start from. And then we get into the next task. And before he engages in the task, he says, well, this one's easy. So I know that question Y won't have as many answers as question X because there's not as many numbers you can start from. And then he works systematically and finds all of the answers. And now the depth isn't a new task, but is explaining in this instance, this time it's the other way around. Why is it this time that the second question's got more answers than the first question? And this is where the depth in thinking comes in this instance. Not a new task, but really going deep there. One structure that I really like within this as well is questions that can and can't be answered. And the children having a look and identifying, like the top left example, some of the questions can be answered and some of the questions can't be answered. And then identifying which questions can be answered, which questions can't be answered and why. And that's shown this real depth of understanding. And then the extend task for the bottom right example is identifying if you've got a 2-digit number and you're adding a single-digit number to make a 2-digit number, then actually you need consecutive digits to complete that because the tens values, the tens value in the answer has to be 1 10 more than the first addend. So children actually identifying that that question can't be answered for that reason, showing this real depth. A classic for me, of course, are how many ways questions, and children being able to find an answer, different answers, and then being able to say, I know I found all the answers. This is how I know these are all the answers that I found. So that's, again, just a classic way within the original question of going deeper. But also, I've had great fun in finding a range of different extend tasks. So the original question, this is, again, is an IC problem-solving example. It costs £7 to hire a surfboard plus £3 per half hour used. And so in the extend, we've seen children very outraged about this. So it's the idea, if Raj goes surfing for 3 hours and 45 minutes and he pays by the minute, it would have cost him £29.50. But that shopkeeper charges him for a whole half hour for that final piece of 15 minutes. So they argue about the cost. And children identifying, well, they're saying it should cost £29.50. It actually costs £31. How can that discrepancy exist? As an example of how we can go deep within that, children can explain those differences of opinion and I guess identify which one that they would agree with. So there's some examples from my resources specifically of what task development can look like to take children really deep in their understanding of each specific concept.